I saw this on Instagram today, and it's actually not from a Christian site. It's a secular site. I read it and I was like, wow. The people of the world are even teaching us. They show a woman carrying a man on her back like this. And it says, she's not your mom. Take your role back. Tell your neighbor, say, man up. And then I thought, okay, that was even a bad blow. Then I started reading. It says, my wife nags me about everything. This is the response. No, she's carrying what you dropped. It says, you want respect, but you are acting like a son, not a husband. Passive, emotionally absent, and waiting to be told what to do. You say she's controlling, but she's exhausted from filling the gaps. You were left wide open. And guess what? She's not wired to let the house fall apart. So when we let it fall apart, she's not wired to. Okay? When a man abandons his responsibility, the woman will step in. Tell somebody next to you, say, man up. I'm not beating you. I know we are trying, but we have to tell each other the truth, somebody, innit? It says, because her nurturing instinct won't let the family drown. But don't confuse her stepping up with her thriving. It's building resentment. She's tired of parenting her husband. She misses being a wife to a man who shows up. Tell somebody next to say, man up. You are called to lead, not to dominate, not to control, but to carry the weight of responsibility in your home. That means you initiate the hard convos. You keep track of what matters. You set the tone. You build the culture in your home. It's time to be present and what? Responsible. Tell your neighbor, say, man up. From a non-Christian. But that is actually talking about the physical responsibilities of the woman, maybe the financial responsibilities and domestic responsibilities. But listen to this. What I've come to tell you here is, if you can carry the spiritual weight in your house, your wife will actually not mind carrying some other things. Because the spiritual weight is where the lethal weapons are. Let me give you a charge from a man that refused to man up and the woman took the place. A lesson from John Wesley's mother, Susanna Wesley. You've heard of John Wesley? Okay, if you have not, have you heard of the Methodist Church? He is the one that started the Methodist Church. The Methodist Church is one of the greatest denominations ever built. And his brother is Charles Wesley. Charles Wesley wrote most of the hymns we sing today in the churches. He wrote thousands of hymns. But let's see the story of this woman and see a woman who womaned up when the man refused to man up. Watch this. Her husband was a poor, struggling preacher, but he was mostly in debt. One story says he used to drink a lot, but we don't know. Some people just said he was just poorly paid as a preacher. But he was mostly in debt, and then eventually he was imprisoned for lack of paying debt. Do you remember what that woman said? The woman said, my husband, your servant, is dead, and the creditors are what? Coming for his son, for the two sons. And so you know what? Susanna Wesley rose up because her husband used to pastor a church, and women were not allowed to preach. And the church that he was pastoring began to dwindle. So you know what she did? She rolled up her sleeves at home and raised her children, and also she began to do certain things. Are you here this afternoon? Watch this. Guess how many children she had? 19 children. She had 19 children and 10 of them died. Because in those days, they didn't have immunization. So they had more children to compensate for the ones that would die. But you know what? It's not easy to raise 9 children. And the 9 children, listen to this, with the business of raising 9 children, of these 9 children, she didn't have money to send them to school. She homeschooled them and taught them not just English, geography, history. She taught them Greek, Latin, French, and German. And half of them went to Oxford. I took my two sons when they were kids, to Christ Church College. The two brothers went to that college, I believe, with William Wilberforce. Yeah. But this is how whatever that woman, how focused and intentional she was. Not only did she teach them this, she used to have Bible studies with them daily. 9 of them. Listen to this. But within that busy schedule, depending on where you come from, she made sure she never negotiated, a 2-hour prayer slot, consecrated time every day. She never missed it for 40 years. Because that was the place that she shaped the destiny of her children and the destiny of her family. It doesn't matter what age the children were, because they had a one or 2 bedroom house. Can you imagine? Father and mother in one place, all the children in the other place. The children knew that anytime their mother had her cloak like this, covered her head, don't come and ask for food or anything for 2 hours. Her husband was mostly in prison, and one narrative says in drunk houses. But you know what? The woman became the priest of the home. And we see the resultant effect of his priesthood, of her priesthood. John Wesley, listen to this, he won what we know of England today. Yeah? When you say Christianity in England, was primarily due to John Wesley. I believe that Susanna Wesley arose when Samuel Wesley refused to man up. And it will be sad, because many of us, when we get to heaven, some crowns that should have gone to us, thank God, some of us are just planning on making it to heaven. Some crowns that belong to us, when they say, oh, crown for the Fola-Alade family, some of us will rise up and want to go and carry it. They say, no, that's not for you. This is for your wife. It was meant for you. But your wife fulfilled that role. Somebody say, God forbid. You see, you remember, women were not allowed to preach. Who remembers? Women were not allowed to preach. You know what she did? Women were not allowed to preach. The church was next door. The husband was in prison. What she began to do was that she began to pray. Women started to come to her house to learn Bible study and pray. They started at 10. It grew to 20, to the point where they used to have twice weekly Bible study and prayers in her house. That her small house grew to 120 people, women in the house, praying, even though she was not allowed to preach. And guess what happened? The women, as they prayed, you know what happened? The women caught fire and they started prayer meetings in their own houses. Do you know that's how the Methodist Church started? It started on the back of those prayer meetings. I can almost assure you that the reward of Samuel Wesley went to Susanna Wesley. Lift up your right hand and say, in the name of Jesus, I decree and declare that I will not miss my reward. Say, I decree and declare I will not miss my reward.